In the cold silence of an Ethiopian monastery, a forgotten vault was opened for the first time in centuries. The air was heavy with dust and incense, and within the cracked stone chamber lay a single manuscript, its leather cover darkened by time, its letters written in an ancient tongue no priest could fully decipher. The monks called it the Book of Enoch. But among the few who dared to read its pages, it had another name: the Testament of the Watchers. They say this was the book that angels tried to erase from the memory of mankind, a chronicle of celestial beings who descended from heaven, not to guide humanity, but to defy their Creator. These were the Watchers, the fallen ones, who walked among men and gave them the knowledge of heaven's fire, of metal and weapon, of stars and spirits, of the secrets that only gods were meant to know. For revealing too much, the book was banished, condemned by the Church as heresy, hidden away for nearly 2,000 years. And yet, like the very angels it describes, it refused to die. It resurfaced in whispers, in fragments, in forbidden translations smuggled out of monasteries by those who felt its truth burning beneath their skin. Now the light returns, and what was once forbidden rises again from the shadows. What you are about to hear will change your life forever. Long before the canon of the Bible was fixed, before empires decided which words were sacred and which would be silenced, there was the Book of Enoch. It was once read by early Christians, quoted by the apostles, and revered by ancient mystics as the missing bridge between heaven and earth. But then, something changed. Around the 4th century, the councils of the early church gathered to define the limits of divine truth. Among the scrolls they examined, one frightened them more than any other. It spoke of angels who disobeyed, of gods who fell in love with mortal women, of forbidden knowledge given to mankind, the knowledge of creation itself. To allow such a text to survive would mean admitting that divinity could rebel, that heaven itself was not perfect. And so, the Book of Enoch was declared heresy. The Church called it too dangerous for the faithful. It was hidden, burned, and erased from public scripture. Only a few copies survived, preserved in the highlands of Ethiopia, guarded by monks who believed that to destroy it would anger the heavens. Within its pages lies the origin of humanity's oldest fear, that enlightenment and damnation might be the same thing. For Enoch writes that when the Watchers descended, they brought with them both light and shadow. They taught man the crafting of metals, the movement of the stars, the healing of herbs, and the invocation of spirits. But in their teachings, they broke the divine order. What they offered was not evil, it was unrestrained. And perhaps that is why the Church forbade it. Because the Book of Enoch does not warn against darkness. It warns against ignorance. It says that those who seek truth will fall before they rise, and that no temple, no priest can mediate the fire within. For 2,000 years, this knowledge has slept beneath the sands, waiting for minds brave enough to see the heavens as they truly are, vast, complex, and not without rebellion. For the first time, this forbidden knowledge will now be revealed. Long before the flood, before the memory of kings and prophets, the heavens opened, not in blessing, but in defiance. From the firmament descended 200 luminous beings, each burning with brilliance greater than the stars. They were called the Watchers, guardians set to observe mankind, to watch, but never to interfere. Yet, when they looked upon the beauty of earth and the hearts of men and women, they fell not through battle, but through desire. Their leader was Semyaza, and beneath him stood Azazel, Armoros, and others whose names now linger in forgotten tongues. They swore an oath upon the peak of Mount Hermon. Let us descend together and bear the burden of our choice. And so the divine fell. They came not as demons, but as teachers, revealing to mankind secrets once reserved for heaven. To men, they taught the forging of weapons, the shaping of iron and bronze. To women, the arts of adornment, beauty, and enchantment. They revealed the movements of the stars, the power of herbs, and the hidden laws that govern nature. Humanity awoke to knowledge, but with it came war, vanity, and ambition. From their union with mortal women came the Nephilim, giants of great power and wisdom, yet corrupted by the dual nature of spirit and flesh. Their hunger for dominance ravaged the earth, and the cries of mankind rose to heaven. In sorrow, the Creator commanded the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, to descend and set the world aflame with judgment. Enoch, still mortal then, was chosen as the witness. He recorded the cries of the fallen and the decree of their punishment. The watchers were cast into the shadow realm, bound beneath mountains of fire. The Nephilim were destroyed by the flood, and their memory erased from the histories of men. But the knowledge remained, scattered, dormant, waiting for rediscovery. This is the paradox of the forbidden book, that divine knowledge cannot be destroyed, only hidden. Every civilization that rose afterward, Egypt, Sumer, Greece, carried fragments of the Watcher's wisdom in their sacred rites. And with it comes the first secret practice, one whispered by Enoch himself, the breath of the Watchers. Sit in silence. Close your eyes. Breathe as if your lungs were the gates between heaven and earth. On the inhale, imagine drawing light from above into your spine. On the exhale, imagine roots descending into the earth. Repeat until you feel both directions meet in the heart, the place where divine and human merge. This was the way the Watchers taught mankind to bridge worlds, to remember the sky while standing upon the soil. It is said that those who master this breath see visions not with their eyes, but with the memory of light that lives inside them. When the cries of the world reached heaven, one man was chosen to bear witness between the divine and the fallen. Enoch, the seventh from Adam. Unlike the others of his generation, Enoch walked in silence, his heart attuned to the pulse of creation. The book says that Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more, for God took him. But what truly happened to him was far greater than a simple ascension. One night, as he gazed at the stars, a voice called from the wind. "Come, son of earth," it said, "for your name is written among the Watchers." A chariot of fire descended, its wheels turning like suns within suns. Trembling, Enoch stepped into the light, and the world below fell away. He was carried through 7 heavens, guided by angels whose faces blazed with knowledge beyond understanding. In the first heaven, he saw the oceans suspended above the firmament, reflecting the stars like mirrors. In the second, he beheld the prisons of the fallen Watchers, their eyes glowing like coals in eternal remorse. In the third, he saw souls being purified by rivers of light. And in the seventh, he stood before the throne of the great glory, where sound became form and thought became fire. There Enoch was given a revelation. That creation is not a single act, but an ongoing breath, one that expands and contracts through time. He was told that humanity was never meant to remain ignorant, but to rise, step by step, toward remembrance. "You are the bridge between the seen and the unseen," the angels said. "Guard this truth, for it will be forbidden." From this vision arises the second secret practice, the path of ascent. It is not a journey through space, but through perception. To begin, Sit beneath the night sky or in total darkness. Focus on the rhythm of your breath. Imagine each inhale lifting you through a higher realm, the body, the heart, the mind, the soul, the spirit, until you reach silence. In that silence, do not ask for visions. Ask only to remember. When the veil parts, you will feel yourself expand, no longer bound by time or form. That moment, fleeting yet eternal, is the same ascent Enoch described, the return of the mortal to the pattern of the divine. Modern science, through the study of consciousness and frequency, begins to touch this truth. Brainwaves measured in deep meditation show coherence across both hemispheres, as if the mind itself begins to resonate with the geometry of creation. What mystics called the chariot of light may well be the inner mechanics of awakening, a bridge between dimensions of thought. Thus, Enoch became more than a prophet. He became a messenger between worlds, the living proof that man can walk with gods and return with memory intact. And for this, the book that bore his name was sealed, its wisdom buried under the weight of orthodoxy. For knowledge of the heavens is a double-edged sword. It elevates the pure, but destroys the proud. Beyond the visions of fire and the punishment of angels, the Book of Enoch hides something even greater, a map of creation itself. Scholars who studied its fragments noticed that the text speaks not only of divine realms, but of patterns, numbers, and forms that mirror the architecture of the cosmos. It is written that before Enoch was taken, the angels showed him the measure of heaven and earth, and the secrets of the lightning, the sun, and the stars. Hidden within those verses lies a language older than any religion, the language of light. Every star, every atom, every living cell vibrates with it. The Watchers called it the divine geometry, the code by which God wrote the universe. Modern science now glimpses the same mystery through the spiraling double helix of DNA, the same sacred spiral mirrored in galaxies and ancient temples. In the secret tradition of Enoch, the soul itself is said to carry a reflection of this geometry. The ancients taught that when the breath, the mind, and the heart align perfectly, the human being becomes a living pattern of the cosmos, a microcosm of divine order. This state was called the memory of light. Here lies the third secret practice, the awakening of the pattern. Sit with your spine straight. Breathe slowly, imagining a golden spiral of light rising from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. With every exhale, imagine that same spiral descending into the earth, weaving heaven and matter into one continuous thread. As the rhythm deepens, visualize that thread turning into an infinite loop, pulsing with light, the shape of eternity. It is said that when Enoch mastered this practice, his body became translucent, vibrating at the same frequency as the stars. His eyes became as suns, his skin as flame, the text describes, and he remembered the song of creation. Modern researchers have begun to observe how emotion, thought, and vibration influence molecular structure. Water crystals, DNA strands, even the electromagnetic field surrounding the body. The ancients knew this without instruments. They understood that the divine code is not written in words, but in resonance. Enoch's revelation, buried beneath millennia of fear, was this: man was never cast out of heaven. He simply forgot its frequency. The Watchers fell because they tried to wield light without understanding it. Humanity's task is different, not to dominate, but to harmonize. Each time you breathe with awareness, each time you align thought and love, you rebuild the bridge they destroyed. You restore the pattern of light that was once torn apart by rebellion. Perhaps that is why the Church buried this text. For if mankind knew that the divine structure lives within him, no power could rule him through fear again. As the last of his days among men drew near, Enoch was no longer seen as mortal. The scriptures say that he walked with God and was not, for God took him. But the forbidden text tells more. It describes a transformation so radiant that witnesses could not look upon him without trembling. His voice became thunder, his skin shimmered with starlight, and his heartbeat echoed like the pulse of the cosmos. Enoch was no longer a man remembering heaven. He had become its reflection. The angels named him Metatron, the scribe of the eternal, keeper of the book of life. It was said that through him, humanity would one day regain the knowledge of the Watchers, but only when it had learned to wield light without corruption. For in every human soul, the spark of the fallen and the breath of the divine coexist. To deny one is to misunderstand both. Modern science, though speaking a different language, approaches the same threshold. Quantum physics tells us that all matter is vibration, that the observer shapes the observed, and that consciousness threads through the fabric of reality like light through glass. Enoch's ascent may not have been flight, but frequency, the elevation of human awareness beyond the limits of form. And perhaps this is why the Church feared his words. Because if the human soul carries both the shadow of the Watchers and the light of heaven, then salvation is not granted by decree. It is chosen by remembrance. From the secret fragments known as the Book of Giants, scholars found a final warning. When the children of the Watchers awaken, the stars will tremble, for the heavens will know themselves again through man. To the mystics, this line means that humanity is the continuation of that celestial lineage, a species born from both rebellion and grace. Our evolution is the redemption of the fallen, the completion of a cycle that began before time. And this is the fourth secret practice, the flame of reunion. In quiet meditation, visualize a sphere of light in your heart. Within it, two forces circle, one golden, one shadowed. Do not force them apart. Let them dance. With each breath, whisper inwardly, light and shadow, one flame. When the two merge, a stillness beyond comprehension arises, a state the ancients called the Eye of Enoch. In this moment, the Watcher and the watched become one. You cease to seek the divine because you have remembered. You are the bridge they built and the temple they lost. And as that realization dawns, you understand the true meaning of the forbidden book. Not the fall of angels, but the ascent of mankind. But even light, when held too tightly, burns. The knowledge Enoch carried wasn't meant to make gods of men. It was meant to remind men of their divinity through humility. Those who sought to use it as power, those who tried to command the heavens instead of harmonizing with them, met the same fate as the Watchers. They fell. The Book of Enoch warns that the greatest danger is not darkness, but pride disguised as enlightenment. The same fire that illuminates can devour the soul that seeks dominion. The fallen angels did not descend because they were evil. They fell because they believed themselves untouchable. They mistook awareness for authority, light for ownership. Modern seekers are not exempt. In laboratories and temples alike, humans now experiment with forces once whispered of in prophecy: genetic manipulation, artificial consciousness, the recreation of life itself. They stand again at the threshold where the Watchers once stood, gazing into the machinery of creation and whispering, "We can do better." But the universe is not conquered. It is mirrored. Every action, every thought, sends a ripple through the pattern of light that binds all things, and those who distort it for their own desire awaken the ancient storm, buried in the foundations of existence. So remember this: to know the code of heaven is to hold both its power and its burden. The light of Enoch is not a weapon. It is a reflection. It reveals what already dwells within you, the potential to create and the responsibility to balance. Use it to heal, and the gates open. Use it to rule, and they close forever. Whoever masters this secret masters their destiny. And now, you have walked through the pages that heaven itself tried to erase. You have heard the voices of the watchers, the teachers and the rebels, the bringers of light and shadow. You have seen how knowledge, when feared, becomes forbidden, and how what was once condemned as heresy now returns as revelation. The Book of Enoch is not merely a story of angels and giants. It is a mirror held up to the human soul. In every one of us, the same conflict burns: the urge to ascend and the temptation to rule, the call to remember and the fear of what that remembrance will awaken. The fall of the Watchers was not the end of a divine race. It was the beginning of us. For the seed of the divine still lives within the dust of man. Each breath, each act of compassion, each moment of awareness redeems a fragment of what was lost. The heavens are not far away. They are encoded in your very being. So when you look at the stars tonight, do not search for angels. Search for memory. For within you lies the same light that Enoch carried into eternity. You have awakened a forbidden knowledge humanity forgot. Guard it. Honor it. Let it guide you toward the balance that even angels once sought and lost. And remember, this is not the end, but a beginning. For there are other manuscripts still buried beneath dust and silence, texts that speak of the Holy Grail, of divine bloodlines, of the hidden path from darkness to illumination. In the next revelation, we shall open another forbidden book, one written in the shadow of the cross and sealed in light.